Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the all-new Ram Dakota, and yes, it is finally happening. Before we get into the video, though, I do want to mention if you're going to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. And with that being said, let's get into it. So it has been forever since we have had a Ram Dakota here in the United States. It's been like over a decade at this point, but Ram is finally bringing it back. There have been a lot of public announcements from Ram with this new Dakota. What we have most recently is Ram is basically saying that they are taking this prototype Dakota to a bunch of different Ram dealers throughout the country, and they're going to do a poll with these dealers and see if the dealers want the truck. And spoiler alert, every single dealer is going to want this truck. And Ram is building the new Dakota for a number of reasons. We'll get into those towards the end of the video, but let's first talk about what this truck is actually going to be like when it comes to specs. So it's going to be a mid-size truck just like it was before, but instead of being under, the Dodge name, it's going to be under the Ram name because, well, they split the brands and everything. So it'll be a Ram Dakota. It won't be a Dodge Ram Dakota. Hopefully that makes sense. And Ram says that it is going to adopt a lot of tech and features from the Ram 1500. It's basically going to be a mini Ram 1500, but there are going to be several things that make it distinct from the Ram 1500 aside from the size. So first off, it is going to have its own unique styling, and Ram says that they want the Dakota styling to be a little bit sportier compared to the Ram 1500 because they want the Dakota to appeal to a slightly younger audience, which makes sense because the Dakota is going to be less expensive than the full-size Ram 1500, and if a vehicle is less expensive, it applies to a younger audience because, well, they make less money and so they can't afford the more expensive stuff. It just makes sense. So sportier looks compared to the regular Ram 1500, but styling is going to be pretty similar overall with the exterior. And then same thing with the interior. They said that they want there to be like a luxury version of the Dakota that's unlike any other mid-sized truck on the market. And they now have the new Canyon Denali to compete with, and so they've got to really make sure that this truck has like a super nice interior if they are to be able to say that it's like the nicest luxury mid-sized truck in the market. But they also want to have off-road variants with this new Dakota. They also want to have sporty variants as well, and obviously work truck variants on top of that, so that they have a Dakota for everyone, similar to what you have with the Ram lineup. And so initially when I talked about this Dakota being released, I thought there might only be like a couple packages, but from what Ram's saying, it looks like there's going to be a lot of different packages to choose from. And so expect on the base side of things, like a Tradesman, and then a Bighorn, and then, Laramie Limited, a Rebel package. And then on top of that, we might get a Dakota TRX, maybe if we ask really nicely. Talk about that a little bit later. But moving from that to the capabilities of the truck, Ram is going to make sure that this is in line with other mid-sized trucks. But a key difference with this compared to other mid-sized trucks is Ram is going to use the multi-link setup similar to what they have in the Ram 1500 with this Dakota, which is different from all the other mid-sized trucks in the world right now, because you look at the Colorado and the Canyon, they still use leaf springs. The Ford Ranger still uses leaf springs. I think the Ranger Raptor uses coil suspension, but the other, like the regular Rangers, those utilize leaf springs. Tacoma leaf springs, Nissan Frontier leaf springs. And so this will be like the first, mid-sized truck where every single package will have, the multi-link in the back. And so that'll be a huge benefit to this truck. It'll make it so it'll ride a lot better than its competition, but it could potentially make it so it has a little bit less payload. But at the same time, Ram has been working on figuring out how to make it so that you can have big payload with that suspension setup in the rear. And then moving from that to the powertrains, this is where we don't have a lot of information, and so we are going to have to guess a little bit, but Stellantis is obviously pushing towards electrification quite a bit, and so there's surely going to be a hybrid version of the Dakota. And based on the size that this truck is going to be, it's most likely just going to get the 4xe powertrain that is in the Wrangler right now, and so that'll have 375 horsepower, 470 pound-feet of torque, 20 plus miles of driving range. It's like a 17 kilowatt hour battery pack, and plug-in hybrid, and that would be great. I'm sure a lot of you watching this video would absolutely love a mid-sized truck that has that amount of power and then also, you know, has that amount of driving range, full electric, and, you know, just all the stuff associated with that. But in terms of baseline powertrains, this is where, again, things get kind of confusing. So we still have the 3.6 liter V6, which would be great for a mid-sized truck. We also have the 2.0 turbo, which would also be another great powertrain for a mid-sized truck, because, you know, both those powertrains, similar power outputs, just, you know, different setups. 4-cylinder versus 6-cylinder naturally aspirated, right, versus turbocharged engine. So one of those will be the base powertrain. We'll just kind of have to see. And then aside from the 4xe being, you know, a more premium powertrain, there could be, you know, like a basically detuned version of the Hurricane powertrain put into this Ram Dakota in a performance version or a performance off-road version. There is a chance of that, but I doubt that that would come out with initial release. I think that would come out later down the line. But I mean, think about, again, and I have to just quickly talk about this before we move on with the video. Think about a Dakota TRX with like 400 horsepower, 500 pound-feet of torque. You have the same shocks as the TRX, everything. Like, that would be such a cool truck. Now, the reason that Ram is bringing back the Dakota is pretty simple economics. The mid-size truck segment is growing by a massive amount. Ram sees that, and Ram sees that the only way for them to get more market share with their brand is they have to release new types of vehicles. They can't just release new models of what they have currently. And so, yeah, they want to jump in the mid-sized truck segment so that they can steal some sales from Ford and Toyota and Nissan, so on and so forth. And smart. And I think that if this Dakota does really well, then we might finally get an expansion of the Ram brand into some product that a lot of people have been asking for quite some time. So the Dakota, right, that's a big one. Another one is the Ram Charger, which would be like a body-on-frame truck-based SUV that would just be just such a cool vehicle for us to have. And so, yeah, that definitely could happen if this truck is successful. And I do think that this truck will be successful. So I guess that'll transition into my thoughts with this Dakota. I think that it should have come out years ago. Like, the fact that Ram has been sitting on this for so long, I don't understand why they have done that. Because if you guys don't know, within like the Stellantis umbrella, right, we have all these different brands and they all have their own like respective teams and CEOs and everything. And so, like, since it's super compartmentalized, like, these teams can like really focus in on their product and expanding their product. And so I've always found it strange that like Ram hasn't expanded outside of building, again, full-size trucks, heavy-duty trucks, and cargo vans. So yeah, this makes sense, and it's hopefully a situation where it's not a little bit too late, because now we're getting into the point where there's a lot of push for EVs, and there will probably also be a Dakota EV on top of that. I didn't mention that earlier, but that's another thing that Ram has kind of thrown out, is that there's also probably going to be an EV version of this. And the reason why this is important is it's a lot easier for truck buyers to kind of transition into hybrids and EVs if it's a vehicle that they have been familiar with for quite some time. And, you know, the Dakota's been around for a long time, but it's also been gone for like a decade. And so, yeah, that transition would be a lot easier rather than just like throwing out, hey, here's this truck, it's back from the dead, but it's completely different. Like, look at the Hummer EV, for example. Like, there's a lot of hype behind that, but we haven't had a Hummer for over a decade. And so it'll take some time for people to like be willing to, you know, kind of jump back into the brand, so to say. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully Ram executes this properly, and I think that they will, because again, the 1500 series truck, for example, has been just wildly successful because of how well they executed the release of the truck, and just, you know, the features and everything that they gave that truck and all the different packages. Because with the 1500 series truck, there is literally a truck for everyone, because if you want a truck just for work, you can get that. If you want a luxury truck, you can get that. If you want a crazy off-road truck, you can get that. And like, so as long as they apply that same philosophy to the Dakota, it will sell amazingly well. And with that being said, I want you guys to let me know what you think about this new Ram Dakota, if you would personally purchase one, and what do you want to see out of this truck when it comes to the powertrain, when it comes to the interior, just any of the features. Like, what are you looking for with this truck? When it comes to me, you guys know I wanted Dakota TRX with the Hurricane Inline 6. That would be such a fun truck. I'll see you.